Good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Grady, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Inland and Wetlands Commission of Monroe. It is January the 10th, 2018. It is currently 7:07. The first order of business, as always, is the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we will introduce the members of the commission, starting over here. All right, we have Clark Gingras, right? Sorry about that if I mispronounced. Ross Mastroraco. I am Jason Grady. We have Commissioner Jeff Shamus, who is a certified ecologist, professional wetland scientist, and soil scientist. And we have and is also our vice chairman. We have our Commissioner Lois Spence. Next to her is Donna Straczynski, who is our Inland and Wetlands Commission and Land Use Coordinator. Next is Scott Schatzeline, who is a professional engineer, vice professional engineer, land use director, town engineer, and inland wetlands agent for the town of Monroe. And we have a recording secretary, Rebecca Wood. I got everybody right? Yes. I also am supposed to read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. The Inland and Wetlands mission statement is the objective and purpose of the Inland and Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland, wetlands, and water courses within the town of Monroe. In the normal course of our meetings, we will hear public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make a representation or presentation to the commission, during which and after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. The commission will then review town, staff, and other independent comments. The meeting will then be opened up to the public for comment. I would ask that all comments be made to the chair or the commission. Excuse me. After any and all comments in opposition to or of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond. It is not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new material is entered in as evidence or testimony during their response. Please keep any and all comments, pro and con, specific to inland and wetlands related matters. Other applications that do not involve a public hearing will follow a similar format, with the exception that there will be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise amended. Our agenda is up here in green if anybody would like a copy. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight?
Yes, well, we got notification from 327 Barnhill that they would like to table it, which they do have time for within their 65-day time frame to table their hearing because they were not prepared with their comments. So that would be for the subdivision report recommendation and also the continuation of the public hearing.
So we're postponing the continuance of the hearing?
Correct, till the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay, is anybody in the public here on the hearing for 327 Barnhill Road? If you are, we are discussing it being tabled, just so you're aware.
And then the next item is for Maple. They were, the engineer had let us know that they weren't made aware by the owner that the meeting was for tonight, so he was requesting that we postpone that till the next meeting.
That's for Maple, you said?
For Maple, yes, which is under
Enforcement?
remediation submission, yes, enforcement.
Yeah, so that's, well, when you get to it, that's enforcement, so you guys would need to weigh in on whether you accept that or not.
Okay, we'll get there when we get there then. You want to do it now?
I think that is, that's all the changes that I have.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Next order of business is the minutes of the December 13th, 2017 meeting.
Move to approve with changes.
We have a motion by Commissioner Spence. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Changes?
Okay,
Who was the second last?
No.
Clark. Okay, thank you.
on page 2, course. Actually, page 3, halfway down the page, under commission and staff comments, it said Chairman Grady stated that Robin Lane would not be extended. He asked, he did not state.
Okay.
On the first bullet on page 10, I just was trying to make it a little bit easier to read. In the middle of the sentence section, second sentence, it says would create an opportunity. If we just cross that part out and put in less opportunity for encroachment.
Okay.
And several bullets down from that says Commissioner Stewart inquired if this basin was to be considered to be a dam, as he had a dam in a similar basin on his personal property. He never said it was on his property. He said he had one. I took it to mean that he dealt with them in his place of business. So it was not on his property. Yep, circle. Thank you. Otherwise, I wouldn't find it. And I think that might, oh no, the last page, under adjournment, a motion to adjourn was made by James Spence. No big deal. Okay, well, yours, that's it.
Thank you.
I think we have one more, Commissioner Gingrich.
Yeah, page 3, spelling on the top, I seconded the motion, just drop the E, it's C-L-A-R-K.
Oh, okay, got it.
Sorry, Clark, I missed that one.
Any other changes? Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Spence, second by Commissioner Gingrich. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Motion passes unanimously with an abstention by Commissioner Chavez. Okay, next order of business is a period of time blocked off for general public participation. This is a period of time reserved for any comments or questions from the public of a general nature, not pertaining to anything on the agenda tonight. Anybody have anything? Seeing none, moving right along. Okay, we have the annual organizational meeting, election of officers, and vote 2018 meeting schedule. I believe because we are commissioner short tonight, we will be tabling that to our next meeting. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, so we will table section E. Okay, and well, moving right along to review of the bylaws. Again, I'm not sure that we could vote on these today because we're short one of our members, but I do believe there was some discussion. Is that correct?
Yes, there were, Rose had actually had gone through and made some revisions also, so what I gave you tonight was a copy of her suggestions. So if you guys want to review that and we can discuss that with the next thing, I can email the colored copy to you, but I wanted you to have a paper copy.
You wanna just hit those now? I mean, I
Or
had
it's up
gone
to you.
over my changes at the initial meeting.
Yeah, we went over some stuff at the initial meeting, so if you wanna,
You wanna just get them real quick?
I didn't bring my own copy.
Well, that's
It's
okay.
all right, because
in your
I
packet,
gave
there's
you a
one.
copy.
Oh, okay,
I
good.
brought
Okay,
that.
so the first one is page 3.
Here we go.
Before you start, Scott, so it's known, in our packet was a black and white copy. So when you're saying things are in color that are changed, they are, I believe they are underlined? Or they're stricken through,
Yes,
and
the stricken
underlined
through.
changes in the black and white copies, they're not color. So if you're looking
That
at the
is
color
correct.
copy, we don't have the color.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is,
What
I'm
we
gonna,
do have, though, is most of them are in parentheses, and you can see
that what
that
it
there
is?
is shading.
yes,
Okay.
There are
so,
some
Those
shading, so
shading
you
is-
can
those
see.
so
I tried.
my comments,
Yeah.
the new stuff is underlined in bold. The stuff that we've removed is lightly shaded and crossed off, and Lois's stuff, for the most part, is in parentheses. So the first one is page 3. I'm doing these, I'm reading them as we're doing them, Lois, so.
Okay.
First one is page 3, 6.1E. She added the word disturbed, and I think that's fine. That just helps describe a little bit
It takes,
better.
we're removing developed, right? Because it doesn't necessarily have
Oh,
to
you
be developed.
want to remove the.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't start striking out until later on.
Previously,
That's,
yeah,
That was our criteria, was it had to be previously disturbed, not necessarily developed.
I kind of look at it in, they're kind of, both kind of go in the same direction. If it's developed, it's disturbed. And if it's disturbed, it may
But
be something else.
disturbed doesn't mean it's stable. Developed could mean it's stable.
That's why developed is better. Because what I'm trying to say here is that if somebody has previously developed something, meaning they got a permit for it, or it's legit, then I could issue an agent approval for it. And if it's not legit, I don't think you want me issuing an agent approval, you want me bringing it to you
Yeah,
guys.
okay,
Right?
okay,
So-
that's fine.
So we'll leave it the way it
Strike
was
that
then.
out then,
Okay.
okay?
Strike
Next-
out what?
Next
Strike
one,
out the, my disturbed.
Okay.
so the next one is 7.1, and you're saying, first meeting in December.
She's addressing the issue.
Yeah, and you put, and made part of the minutes of the meeting, this doesn't always work. What do you mean by that?
Well, as evidenced by the fact that we've already been through several meetings, we can't, it's like herding cats, trying to get everybody here at the same time.
Now, what I did was, I called Jeremy Hayden, who
Mm-hmm.
is our new town attorney.
Oh, he is?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay,
so, that's fine, you guys are,
that's excellent.
yeah, so, he told me, and I asked him about this, and he said that, you can change it in your bylaws, but in order to change it, you need to go by the old rule, you have to have everyone here.
But you're going to change
But
it.
you can say that you, would change it with, 75%, or 75%, or he was suggesting 2/3 vote.
Well, that's kind of what, the 2/3 worked out to 4. So that's why I went to 75, because that works out to 6.
Okay, well, you could be more restrictive.
6? 5, 6, I forgot what the math was. But whatever it was more than just a quorum.
Yeah.
So, that's
Uh,
fine, you know, I just was trying to avoid.
So you want to add, and me part of the committee, all commissioners must be notified of, and you put 75% of the members. What do you mean,
That was kind of a misnomer.
You're all seated.
Yes, this
No,
is true.
but
So you
she's
don't
saying
need-
the present.
No, seated here.
Present, I guess,
Yeah.
yeah, with our butts in the chairs.
What if I'm standing? No.
No,
As
actually,
opposed to standing
actually,
up.
it's not, I think you're trying to say it wouldn't be 75% of the ones present, it'd be
No,
75%
of the
of
ones-
the
Of the
commission.
Of the
commission.
commission,
Right.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
of the existing commission.
So
Okay,
I'll
so just
change
take out
that.
the seated part. Like I said, I just kind of did this on the fly, so,
Okay, all right. So I'll change
We'll hold it
that.
against you.
Thank
I got where you're going on that. And then 7.3, next page, vacancies in office shall be filled by the town council in a timely manner except where in conflict with the Connecticut General Statutes, as vacated commission positions shall be filled by a person recommended by the same, yeah, I think that was understood.
because we had a situation where there was an undeclared person on the board. Mike Benno was undeclared, but he was recommended by the Republicans.
So you're
So it was a
saying,
Republican seat that he filled, but he himself was not a Republican. So I was just trying to make allowance for that situation.
well, I think, one thing that's confusing is you got a person recommended by the same political, I got it, okay. It sounds-
Say chickens don't
I
work.
thought you were saying a person in the party. I was like, what do you mean?
No.
All right, so that sounds good, unless anybody, speak up if anyone has a problem
Or
with it.
different wording
Yeah,
suggestion.
and anything is,
8.1, you have can this work? A schedule of commission regular meetings for a given calendar year shall be filed in the office of the town clerk by December 1st preceding the calendar year for which the schedule is set. Yes,
so we'd have to be presented with the calendar to vote on then in early November.
Well, and that's sort of what did happen, but unfortunately, the November meeting didn't happen. So what, and by state statute, I thought it was by state statute that we had to file with the town clerk. So what I did is I filed the proposed commissions, and then when you vote on it, I will then refile the actual meetings
Okay.
that you want, that
All
you
right.
have all voted to agree
Well,
upon.
that's what I was thinking of also.
Yes.
That's what I had in mind when I, is this
Yeah.
gonna work?
okay,
So
so
that's
that
So we
what
can take that
happens.
out too.
that comes
Okay.
out. Then
So that just means officer has to change.
8.3, the notice of the meeting shall specify the
Which is what
purpose,
I did.
agenda of such a meeting. Items shall not be permitted to be added to the notice proposed agenda of a special meeting, and no other business shall be considered. It said secretary,
Mhm.
and you say the Inland Wetlands Office shall give notice to of special meeting not less than 24 hours in advance of such.
Because the secretary doesn't do that.
Yeah,
You guys
but-
do
yeah,
that.
Right.
okay, that sounds good. So we'll leave that in. Next page, all you did on 8.11, you added an S.
Yeah,
Commission
that was
shall-
just a typo.
Constraints as, yep, no problem. Next page, 6 of 10, 11.1, you added filed in the office of the commission.
Oh, that, no, I didn't add that, I just moved it from the end of the sentence to make it less awkward.
And filed in the office of the commission as per record. Yep, that's a good suggestion. All right, so leave that in. We'll go to 8 of 10, section 4.1. Did you added all this, right?
No, I took that out, or, no, I didn't add it, it was already there.
14.1?
You got 14
14.1.
right, I took the end of it out because it's already stated in 13.1. That entire paragraph, the,
You know, as I wrote it, I was saying, I
this sounds
swear.
awful familiar.
You know, Scott,
At least I'm honest.
it's only 2 paragraphs up, so I get it.
No one can ever
That's
say
long
I'm
gone out of your mind.
I was doing the same thing, and I'm like,
Why
wait a
is this
minute.
so
I
familiar?
did, you're right, because it's in its
Okay,
own.
So that can
It
get,
has its own,
removed.
its
Yeah,
own
sorry.
section.
I'm trying to put like 3 things together.
well done, Lois, because I didn't catch that either.
All right, so then we move along,
I
and
think
that was it.
yeah. Scott, I think you did a great job. Thank you. Thank you for getting that going.
Thanks for going through that,
Good job, Bill.
both of you.
Thank you.
And so, as we're moving on in the agenda, I would remind commissioners present, if we could all make our absolute best effort to be here on the next meeting so we can put the bylaws to bed and vote on our meeting schedule and, of course, elect brand-new officers to the commission.
What's the date of that?
Next meeting
It's
is 2 weeks from today, right?
January 24th.
January 24th.
You got something
Over
right?
here? You're right. It got postponed to the 25th.
Are you gonna have something done?
Share it with everyone, I don't care.
No, okay,
Well, we'll see what we can do.
All right.
okay.
It is what it is. Life happens.
We do what
Hence
we
the
do.
separate-
Okay, moving right along to application hearings and determinations. IWC 2017-13, 94 Elm Street. Baghdadi owner, Olson, representative, Wolf engineer, proposed single-family home with associated site improvements.
No, you don't show anything.
Okay, I didn't think of
Like getting that postponed, so you have to think about it.
Okay, so this is an application for construction of a new house. And it involves a property that is 1.48 acres. There are 0.73 acres of wetlands on the property. Upland review area of the property is 0.36 acres. The total area of regulated areas to be altered is none of the wetlands proper, but 0.02, which is 1,067 square feet of upland review area is proposed to be altered. This is a little bit unique in that, I had a conversation with him quite a while ago, and I'm trying to recall the story, but I believe that this property was part of a additional land. And what happened was, back in the day, and I think it was before the wetlands regulations, I think these ponds were actually, there's 2 ponds on the back of this property. Those ponds were either created or enhanced and altered, let's say. And there were some structures that were placed, there's a field or a meadow in one area, and then they put in a timber deck that extends out into one of the ponds, and they built a gazebo and a utility building on this portion of the original property. And then, at some point, they either subdivided or split off the property and created a new lot. So they have a situation here where they want to build a house, and they already have these structures that are there that were in regulated area. So I've started my, did you pass out my comments for this yet, or I didn't?
I think so.
I don't think I'm thinking of the other one. I
You
didn't,
didn't give it to us.
yeah, I didn't fully, I was ready to.
You don't have it.
I was going to give it to you, but then it was kind of tight, so I said, you're better off not having it, let me finish it and make sure everything's there. But what I noticed was that, one of the things I'm suggesting they do, and they need to do, is provide more information about how this lot was created, when it was created, when the ponds were created, did they get permits, did they need permits, those kinds of things. So I'm gonna be asking them to provide that additional information, in addition to a number of other items that are housekeeping items that go along with typical applications. So that's what they are proposing. So technically, they are not proposing any direct wetland impact. It's only activity that's in the rear portion of where they're going to disturb to build the house, and it involves some grading and installation of a underground stormwater retention system.
Well, the current proposal may not propose impacts, but as you had just mentioned, we don't know
That's right.
when the other impacts occurred, basically creating open water where there is likely forested wetland, and installing the structures. So that'll be interesting, going through some aerial photography chronology.
So are you saying that you want to make it a public hearing just in case that is an impact, or are you saying you want to?
Well, I think we don't have enough information, because we don't know if these activities occurred under Monroe's inland wetland regulations, or if they needed Army Corps and state permits, because it was prior
Okay.
to.
So it automatically gets accepted tonight per
Mhm.
statute, but we could send them a letter and say that you are deferring your decision as to whether it's a public hearing or not until such time that they provide that additional information for the application.
Or we could just make it a public hearing.
Or you could.
Yeah,
But
but
if you
the-
make it a public hearing, you have to indicate that it's a significant activity or in the public's
That's
interest.
true.
Are those structures still there?
Yes. And they're proposing
I
to keep.
mean, how old are they, and,
But
That's
that's,
the
Well, that's
question.
what we're
because they
asking.
could be
That's what he's
rotting
talking.
away right now and becoming a.
The question is when they were put there, because if they're put
Yeah.
there,
I think that this is the area behind the Chase Bank on Elm Street. If you go past Chase Bank heading toward Shelton.
Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah,
come
I
off
know
of
where
Purdy
this
Hill
is.
Road, it's right
Field.
across the street from Purdy Hill Road.
Mhm.
No,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, it is,
Purdy Hill?
the picture on the map
yes,
shows
yes, you're
Purdy
right.
Hill Road,
You're
and then
right.
it shows like they're building
But
something
then if
right
you come down
across
Elm
the street.
Street, there's that T, and that's
Yeah.
part of that farm. I think it
Mhm.
must have been part of the farm initially, which is maybe why the ponds are there for farm ponds.
Farm Mill and Chase Pond.
but
So,
whether it was actually a farm,
right.
quote unquote.
They used to have animals.
yeah, it all
everywhere.
goes to the dates, I think.
Yeah,
yeah.
so, okay, yeah, we can defer our decision on that. I mean,
Okay, so we'll send that letter and get additional information. Meanwhile, the clock will start ticking.
right.
Okay, so you'll send something out, is that how it works?
Mhm.
Thank you. Next order of business is the IWC 2017-10, the subdivision report, recommendation of planning and zoning commission, and the public hearing on 327 Barn Hill Road. We have been requested to table that to our next meeting, and then, as staff indicated at the beginning of the meeting, they're within their time limits, so we're okay to do that, right?
Yep.
So that is tabled until the meeting on the 24th. Okay, cooking with grease, moving right on to enforcement. There is nothing under notice of violation discussion, and we're moving on to remediation submissions. IWC 2017-11, 4 Maple Drive, O'Keefe, unapproved activity in the wetland area, I'm assuming that's area, and within 100 feet of the upland review area, violation IWV 2014-01, remediation submission review. And I believe we have received correspondence.
Yes, I didn't you don't have a copy of it, but I do have the email here from Nick Clark from Spath Bajorklin Group. And I'll read it. It says, because our office was not made aware of the attached letter indicating the meeting date until now, and the fact that we only received review comments late last week, we are not in a position to appear in front of the commission tonight. We respectfully request that we postpone so that we may have sufficient time to prepare responses to your comments, and it is dated January 10th.
So I might say that we did send out a letter to them, say, to the owner, to the applicant, saying that it would be on the agenda for tonight, but for whatever reason, by his own engineer. So typically, we do like to include the
Yes,
engineer
that
as
would
a copy on it, and unfortunately, that didn't happen in this case. But I might also say that I did a review for this, you got my review comments, and I discussed this with the planning and zoning administrator, and there are some elements to this proposal that we see as not complying with the zoning regulations. And so if you may recall, I think that was part of your discussion too at the last meeting, we told him that. So we are in the process of trying to resolve that. Hopefully the engineer can help out with trying to address those before they bring it to you at the next meeting.
So I had a question. The last plan that I saw, and I wasn't at the last meeting, was from Will and Kenny and Associates, not from Spath Bjorklund. So are they new to this project?
You know, that,
It's only William Kenny.
And
That's
that
it.
exactly is.
No,
what
we're
I'm-
on 4 Maple, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're on 4 Maple?
yeah, because it was,
Oh, I thought you were on Turkey Hill, sorry.
Oh,
oh,
no, 4
okay.
Maple.
He's,
Okay.
I'm on a different
Ooh,
project.
you had us going there.
Maybe.
He's moving so quickly.
I'm moving too fast.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
it was
4 Maple.
staff.
Sorry,
I
that's
thought
my
4
fault.
Maple
You
was
asked-
tabled or something, isn't that?
Well, that's what we're
That we're
just
about-
discussing,
we're
the
tabling.
tabling.
Oh,
In the
okay,
process.
okay.
Yeah, they're
have to.
requesting a postponement of the
Gotcha.
hearing.
But the bottom line is, they're not, you're saying is, and they're still proposing the stuff that we told them that wasn't gonna work out the last time we read through this.
Is this essentially the same plan we got last time?
It looks to me like it is, yeah.
Essentially, or
I think that is,
is this is the same plan we got
there's
last
only one
time? Where
plan that I reviewed.
You said it wasn't right?
They've only done, that's the first
Well,
version.
the date on this is 11/20. So I don't know, seems to me we did it before then. But I don't know, they all blend in together after a while.
Well, I
All
think
right,
that's
well,
because
regardless,
He had submitted, or he had come and discussed it with you, but he hadn't made the submission, and then now is the submission.
Oh,
we
I
just
see.
kind of ignored what
Okay.
we discussed.
Correct,
Yeah,
right.
So
Or
I guess our movement is we're gonna table it regardless, because the engineer's not here, but
Right.
maybe the staff contact the engineer and be like, hey, just so you're
Yeah,
aware.
the engineer has the comments, and the engineer said that they're gonna work on those comments. So hopefully, that'll be our opportunity to get him to see a little bit more reality, so we don't have to go through this 3 times. That's all, I mean, that's typically what we'll do. We'll set up a meeting usually, have them both come in.
And what's our recourse if they come on the 24th with the same exact
plan.
Well, then you
review it.
you discuss it with them and you tell them what you need, and if they don't do it at some point, then you take other further enforcement action.
Because we've been dealing with Fort Maple for a while, right? So when is that point, I guess, is my
Well,
question.
We, the staff, have been dealing with Fort Maple
Understood.
for years,
Yeah.
because we tried the route of, just not involving the commission, and it was, oh, well, maybe we want to put up a building back there, we'll get someone to design it, and we gave them time for that, and then that fell through because of the economy, and, there were just several different things. And finally, we just got to the point where we just made it formal to get them here before you.
Okay. Anything else about?
So you guys are agreeing to postpone that?
Well, I mean,
This
what
is
So
else
the
do we
next
want?
meeting, next meeting's gonna be.
Okay.
This is okay control, right?
No, we were thinking, Hickory.
Oh, yeah, that Edgerton.
Okay.
So, any other discussion about the tabling here? I don't know that we have,
Nope.
I guess table till the next meeting.
Okay.
265 Turkey Roost Road, IWV 2017-06, unapproved disturbance in a regulated area and a conservation area. Submission review. Are we going forward with this? We have one we're going forward with here? It is hot. I'm gonna take your shorts from.
Okay, so I
There you
gave
go.
my comments to the commission tonight, so you should have them right there.
This is all we have.
Yes, yeah.
They didn't send us.
Well, and they're not here either, so,
Oh, my.
now, let's see, did you send them a letter? All right, so we have a letter dated January 3rd,
To come
and
to
it says,
tonight's
please be advised that the commission has received your remediation submission for the above referenced violation and has been scheduled at the next regular scheduled meeting for January 10th, 2018.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm gonna check the hallway. I believe, did I see Bill Kenny walk in and walk back out?
He's hiding.
Yeah, and actually,
walked in and then
I had an
somebody came
email
in and he
earlier
stepped
saying
back
I'll
out.
see it tonight, so,
I think he's out there. I think he walked in and then his client might have walked in and they stepped out to discuss something, maybe.
good eyes.
Yep, that's fine.
I'll say, because we almost tabled them.
I always get my man.
All right, so let me,
Pleasure to be of service.
Have you ever had to reopen it because all of a sudden you showed up?
Not since I've been here.
yeah. You gotta pay attention.
last one.
Okay, so I just had told the commission that I did, hopefully you brought something on a stick drive.
Yes.
You can take that orange one out there. That's gonna take a look at this.
The mouse should, just continue.
Go to WK, yeah.
And there's a mouse right next to you on that computer, that
Is it-
should work it.
That's the drawing, or, no, yeah, I don't know if you,
I'm assuming that is, yeah. And so use the mouse as your pointer.
sure.
So I was telling the commission that I finished some comments today, got them to the commission and got them to you.
Okay.
So everyone has them at this point, so you can go with that, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Unfortunately, I printed out the letter, but then you don't have to have an extra copy of it. I must have
Oh,
left
the
it.
comments?
Yeah,
You got mine. I could share.
The engineering comments?
yes. Mistakenly left it on the desk.
I would say go do your presentation first, though.
Okay. Okay, sure. I am Bill Kenny, principal of William Kenny Associates in Fairfield, wetland scientist, soil scientist, and landscape architect. So this project is a violation for the removal of some trees from a conservation easement area, and we were hired to help put together the restoration plan, which you see before you this evening. I have the plan and also have some photos of the property. I don't know if people have had an opportunity to visit the site or not, but hopefully I think the photos will be helpful. So this is the picture of the plan of the entire property. It's very long and thin, and this gray box is this box on a smaller scale. So this shows you where Turkey Roost Road is on the east here, and the improvements on the property are only located here because this dark green, this green hatch in this area is a very large wetland system. So he has, most of the property is wetland, a little bit of non-wetland on the west side that, I don't even know if he was aware he had on his property, but he has a little bit of non-wetland way out west. So here is the blow up. Turkey Roost Road is just, you have the house, the driveway coming in. There's a septic system in this area right here, pool in the back, a shed that apparently does not have a building permit and is part of this application. Then there's a stone wall that runs right along here. The light green is basically their ornamental landscape. It's lawn, it's other plantings, shrubs, trees, and things like that. And the dark green is naturalized areas. The wetland line is this red line right here. And this, we took this from the survey that was used when the property was developed and the survey that you have on record at the town hall here. We referenced that in the first note up here on the drawing. So the wetland is a forested wetland, and this area right here is where some trees were removed. It is remains in a natural state otherwise. You'll see with the photos, it's actually quite nice. The trees have been removed, but it hasn't been filled, it hasn't been converted to lawn. It's a nice meadow habitat at the moment. There's this barrier, the existing freestanding farm wall, stone farm wall is right here and extends. There's one area here, the other regulated feature on the property is a conservation easement that was part of the original development of this property. In the conservation easement, there's a line right here that marks the conservation easement and follows that angle there. In this one narrow triangular piece here is a area of lawn within the conservation easement. So we're showing that area to be, thank you, to be naturalized, to remove the lawn from that area and naturalize it. Maybe I'll jump to the photos real quick. This is a view from the pool looking south. The pool is to the east. This is the meadow area where the trees were cut. There's a property to the south where you had another violation. I think that's how you became aware of this property. I understand that property had filling, was I think a more intensive violation from what I understand. So they've planted a few trees and shrubs and revegetated that area. This is a view from the end of the driveway looking down the shed that I mentioned earlier that was without a building permit. That's that shed. You can see the wetland beyond. This is the meadow area where the trees were cut. The stumps are still there. So there wasn't, from what I could see, any significant or any disturbance really to the ground surface. The view north with the pool to the right, the meadow area to the left, the wall right down the middle. This is standing in the meadow area. Pool's off to the right, pool equipment is over here, and this is an upland area straight ahead. The wetland is immediately to the left. This is at the northern end of the meadow looking into the forest. You can see it's primarily trees, really not much of a shrub layer in the upland area here. Okay, this is the lawn. I'm on the north end of the pool, looking north to that area where the conservation easement extended east of the wall and to that area that's currently a lawn. So a little bit of this lawn area would be removed. We'd bring in boulders to mark this area, plant some tree and meadow grasses in this area. This is a view from up at the pool looking to the eastern end of that meadow area. This is the pool looking directly west into the meadow with the wetland behind it. And then looking southwest, and that's probably about it. That's it. It's pretty much an overview of the proposal. If you'd like, we could go through the engineering technical comments. For some reason.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
You're just gonna pull the boulders forward in that little area there?
I'm sorry?
That small area that you turn back into the conservation area?
Yes.
You're just gonna pull the boulders forward to the outer line?
You know, the boulders that are here are massive. They were like pushed there with a machine when they developed the lot. So it would take a lot of effort and disturbance. We thought about just pulling those back, but it would take a lot of, I have a photo that I didn't put on the drive that shows those boulders if you'd like to see.
So you're just bringing in others and you're gonna just create a second little wall
Yes.
around that.
Yeah. You can see over there. Oh, yeah, they're big. I like this one's-
Trust you.
So if you'd like, we can go through the technical.
Just had a question on the trees and replacement. You said that there's stumps that are still out there that you can
Yes.
see. So, I haven't been out there, but is there, a way of just replacing, so if there's 4 trees, if there's 6 trees, stumps that were cut, replacing those?
Same
Same-
quantity.
same- Yeah, like, it looked like red maples, maybe
Right.
some birches on the edges.
Right.
But, you know, if there's a way of doing something similar to make it, you know, the 2 trees, the 2 flowering trees, in that big area, and the 1 flowering dogwood, you know, in that meadow. I understand that area you want to kind of keep as meadow, more or less, but in terms of replacing what was cut in the conservation easement,
Yeah.
I guess that's just whether that could be replaced in kind like that.
I guess received guidance from the owner, Dan Flynn, who's here with me this evening. Sorry, I should have introduced him when I started. And he had meetings with Scott, and I guess we were sort of doing a planting scheme similar to what was approved to the lot to the south. And that was sort of the guide for what we did here. But we're here to, obviously, you know, we're here before you this evening to discuss.
How many
this.
stumps are in that area? Do you know offhand?
I do not know.
5 or 6. And actually, you have pictures of 2 of them that were rotten, they can see why they fell.
Dan had informed me that in that particular area, there were some problems with invasive vines smothering the trees and
Where was that?
getting close. There's one.
Yeah, see how it's hollowed in the middle and hollowed in the middle there?
So. I got pictures of 2 stumps. if you want to see. They're like, almost like 8 inches and hollow.
Yeah.
They're over
So you have the trees that you're proposing. What about the understory? You're
So,
just gonna put trees on bare dirt and leave it?
no, so when I looked at it, the meadow is really thickly vegetated
With what?
with herbaceous plants and,
Or are they invasive,
you know,
herbaceous
it wasn't too
plant or
bad. It wasn't too bad. There's certainly some in there. We put a plan in here to control invasives for 3 years, based on the typical note that you guys like to see. So we'd be to do that, but
Which kind of invasives are we talking about?
I think there's some bittersweet and multiflora rose,
Okay.
so, yeah.
Was that in your written report that you had that? Did I miss it?
It's in the notes on the drawing.
In the notes.
So, general note number 5, a 2-year site monitoring period. I'm sorry, a 2-year.
Sorry.
And I found your north arrow finding when you put it up on the wall. There it was, way down in the corner. That's for all of the,
All the plans. So we orientated all the plans in the same orientation, yeah.
okay.
Position them in the same orientation. I'm sure you got a lot of plans to review.
So for 3 years in the planting area, you'll monitor in 2 years? Oh, I thought you said 3.
I did say 3.
You did
The
say
drawing says 2.
But 3 is actually what
2
we
years.
would like to see. Generally, we do
Okay.
ask for 3. So if we could change that to 3, that would be great. And that's more likely to get than invasives anyway. 2 years is not enough. Judging by the ones on my own property. Mm.
When was this area, started way back when, or?
3 years or so?
Yeah.
Was it with the pool and all that stuff, or was it something completely separate?
No, the pool was already in, trees were falling down over the wall, towards the pool, towards the shed, toward the grass property.
So it was just kind of some selective thinning in that area?
What was happening is, I call them gypsy vines, but you had a different name for the vines that went up there.
Bittersweet.
Bittersweet.
Oh, yeah.
Bittersweets, they choked
Yes.
out the trees,
Mhm.
and the trees were just dying, the branches were falling, and the trees were falling.
Anything else? So I guess the question is, oh, yes, that's for deliberations, right? Anybody have anything else for the applicant?
Was there anything else on Scott's comments that need to be addressed during the hearing?
Yeah, we would appreciate going through some of those and seeing.
Yeah, he's just received,
There were several comments related to topographic information and the floodplain. I assume that's with the concern that possibly there was filling and.
Yeah, you're indicating that there was no filling.
Right.
And there's none proposed. I think that, putting in a couple of trees isn't, it's not worth going through the permit
So we're gonna
process.
hope for.
But I do think that you need to put the floodplain location and elevation on the plan.
Okay, just take it from a FEMA map?
Well, see, the only problem with that is, just so everybody knows, the floodplain, I looked at the floodplain map, and from the map and from the, floodplains are delineated by site-specific contours, not where they are on the map. So I looked on our GIS mapping, and I saw that the floodplain is actually, from what I can tell, is very close to the area where the stone wall is. Probably between the stone wall and the wetland, somewhere in there. So in the area they're going to be restoring to some degree. And it should be on the plan, just so I can verify that.
You know what, I just noticed the nice map that you put together,
Yeah,
which was a while ago, so I'm sure you don't remember it. You do show the 100-year flood line on that.
yeah, and that's pictorial that's off of our information, that's right. And
Okay,
so, you need to get it on this plan
Okay.
somehow.
on that map, it shows it mostly it shows it running somewhere through here. Maybe just touching a little bit right there.
Yeah, okay, so it's somewhere. So, here's the problem. Maybe it's not a problem, but I don't think that you can do that.
What do you mean?
I think a surveyor or an engineer has to do it, to get it on the drawing. I don't think you can just put it on the drawing, because the floodplain it's not something that you just look at another plan and put it on. It's something that you have to extrapolate from the study. What you do is you go into the flood study, and you have to look at the cross sections and extrapolate the actual elevation, and you just have an assumed data on here. You really need to have,
What's,
or I guess, this doesn't have, this original survey you referenced, the floodplains are done by the datum and NAV 88 datum.
right,
So you have to be on the same datum. What I was gonna suggest is that if the approval of this is contingent on their verification that, or indication that there's no proposed grading or disturbance of anything elevation-wise in that area, I think that would be adequate. And then what we can do is, I've suggested that when they're done, they're gonna provide an as-built, and the only part of the as-built is typically something basic. It's just, you're gonna hand edit the plan to show the couple of trees you put in.
yeah,
But the one thing that you do need to do is you need to, or I'm suggesting, like we've done in other applications, is the conservation easement needs to be marked. And typically, that's what a surveyor will do. They'll put a couple, where you put these red dots for the markers,
yes,
that's where the iron pins should go,
okay,
that indicate, that are gonna show where this conservation easement is. Then I'm suggesting that the markers that you put in should go up right at the back of the wall.
we're fine with that.
Yeah, because then that'll say, hey, don't go, beyond here without telling us about
Right.
it. And then typically, and I believe the neighbor had to do this too, is the surveyor will pin the conservation easement, so we all know where it is.
Right.
Otherwise, we
Yes.
don't know.
As part of this process,
They could, what I'm saying is, if a surveyor's gonna do that,
right,
they could also put the floodplain line on the drawing and indicate the elevation, which I think should be fairly easy for them to get off the FEMA data.
my question is, how is that critical to this?
Well, it's critical in that,
Especially if there were trees
whenever
there.
there's a floodplain, I always suggest that it gets put on the drawing, because this is used in the future for information and
If it's on the survey that was produced for the house development, is that adequate for your file?
yeah, okay, if it's on there, you can reference, you could say that you then can show a line and say floodplain is represented on such and
Okay.
such survey, absolutely.
All
You
right,
could even, probably attach the survey just to
right,
Yeah,
proof.
yeah, you definitely can do that.
Okay.
I'm just saying, if it isn't anywhere, then you're
Okay.
gonna have to have him, or them put it
All
on
right.
the as-built.
okay. Let's take a look at some of the other.
Stakes, the survey.
Oh, the staking of the easement line. As part of the restoration, Mr. Flynn hired the surveyor to stake the easement line stakes.
Okay,
Is it okay for us to go out and put the iron pins in next to those wood stakes?
you really shouldn't be doing, no, you shouldn't be doing that. They should be, it should be by the surveyor, so that on the as-built, it would say that those are the pins.
So then,
Pins don't mean anything unless they're on a plan that shows that they were installed.
so the as-built, you'd want the as-built by a surveyor then?
Yeah, but it's really basic. I mean, I don't think it's any, and typically for these conservation easements, if it didn't have a conservation easement, then the as-built would be very simple, hand edit. When they involve people going into conservation easements, it becomes obvious that we need to know where it is in the field. It has to get staked anyway. If they staked it, they already have all the survey information, so 80% of it's done. They just need to go out and put a piece of
I
rebar.
would have had to do that when they came out, but like you asked me to.
Yeah, and typically a surveyor would do that anyway. They would put it
Last week
in.
he did, but I don't think he did.
Yeah. Well, you can look into it. I don't think we're talking big money here to do that, but, you know, it depends on who the surveyor is and what the situation is. But
Okay.
typically, and that's up to the commission too. You don't have to make them mark the conservation easement. But the problem I have is, unless it's pinned by a surveyor and shown on something, it doesn't mean much, you know, because, you know, stakes in the ground could easily be, I'm not saying you would, but they could be moved or misrepresented, that kind of thing. So, I don't know.
That brings me to number 6, the size of the demarcation boulders, and it gets back to that earlier discussion about using a piece of a large equipment to have to place those. We propose stones that are 30 inches long and 18 inches thick. We don't want to have to go too much bigger than that to rip up the whole property to get them in there, because we're primarily just doing tree planting. And
So how many of those stones you're proposing?
how many are we putting in?
Yeah.
The spacing,
30 feet?
Looks like there's 1.5 to 2 foot between center.
did you find a place where I specified that?
Under the demarcation boulder detail.
I'm sorry?
Take your glasses
Under the
off.
demarcation boulder detail.
Oh,
It looks to me like
Right-hand
it's
side of the
1.5 to 2 feet on center.
That was
Is
the
that what that
height.
says?
That's the height of the stone.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, then I'm
yeah, the spacing's not, I don't
I
think
can
so.
making
scale it
things
with-
up.
I can scale what we showed up.
I read it somewhere, it said 5 feet.
I think that might be right.
I don't know where I read it.
We have a 5-foot space, no bigger than 5 feet between each stone.
Yeah, you have
5
it
feet
written-
in between a
written
foot and a half,
somewhere.
in between 2-foot stone? That's not very large.
So it's a 30-inch long stone, and you have a 30-inch stone every 5 feet. A gap of 5 feet.
I kind of agree with Jake. That seems like it's a little bit too far away from each other. If they're gonna be that size stone, I was saying that the openings between should be no more than the size of the
Okay.
stone, so that there's more, you
Okay.
know, it's,
We're fine with that. If we keep the same size, we'll make the opening no more than 2.5 feet. Same length of the stone.
Yeah, so either double the size of the stone or halve the size of the space in between, right?
Sounds good.
Mhm.
Number 7, we will change our detail to match the town standard. There was a comment.
Yeah, it's a simple.
Yep.
The details on our website, by the way.
Number 8 asks, it's about where we obtain the information about the wetland location. It's from the survey of when the house was built, so,
You'll reference that on the plan.
yes. Nope, that's note number 1 on the drawing. Number 9 has to do with putting together an assessment of the wetland and the proposed proposed planting, I was hoping we could just discuss that this evening with the photos that I showed you and the description of the wetland that I gave you.
Yeah, my take on that was you kind of provided it in your presentation,
Okay.
unless there was different things on
Number 10 is follow-up monitoring, so we do have the note on the drawing for that. We'll change it to 3 years. Number 11, since we don't have any earthwork, we'd like, I'm not
it.
sure.
I think what you should do with that is make a reference to it, that it'll be available and, but the work is for the most part by hand and you mulch right afterwards.
Right, like the planting will probably be done in a day, so. if-
Yeah, but put a note in there that you'll assess it upon completion, and if it's needed a longer term, then it will be provided, if you guys are okay with that.
And then number 12, we'll add a note identifying the shed as being unpermitted, but to be permitted as part of this process.
So you add a note that the shed to be permitted, you're gonna do an agent approval?
Whatever is easiest, you tell us.
We met with you, Scott, you said we just need to get a permit.
Yeah, that's an agent approval, that's administrative, so that's what we'll do. Did I see propane tanks behind it?
Yes, one,
Okay, so do you have permit for that?
we do from, yeah, I believe. we
Fire
do.
department or something?
Who installed it?
Um,
Sippin?
Rural gas.
Don't they usually pull a permit when they install a propane tank?
They usually do, but,
Um,
how long ago was that?
2003.
Okay, so that might explain it, okay. All right, well, we'll take care of that administratively after the fact, the shed. And if the shed, was that old too?
Oh, yeah.
So the shed, I believe, that gets grandfathered in after
Yeah, that's
3
what
years, so you
General
don't,
told us we might do.
yeah, you don't need the building department, it's just the,
Agent approval?
it would be an agent approval because the shed's in the previously developed yard.
So if you have a shed and you didn't get a building permit for it, it's grandfathered in after 3 years? Is that-
Yeah, staff, we all believe that our interpretation of the state statute is a little different than a lot of lawyers' interpretation of the statute. We believe that what was meant by it was that if somebody puts in a shed or something else and we know about it and don't do something about it for 3 years, then it becomes grandfathered. However, that's not how other people interpret it. And I don't know if there's much case law.
Other people in town?
No, like
town staff?
attorneys, and
Oh.
so we've had input that it's broadly interpreted that, after 3 years, it's okay. So you can put a shed in the middle of the woods somewhere that no one sees, and then come marching into town hall and say, hey, guess what, I put a shed in 3 years ago, and it's good to go now. You know? We don't think that's the purpose of the statute, but we haven't pressed that issue. We tell, sometimes we even tell people, come on in, and you can get a retroactive permit. Some people are concerned that they want to get like a paperwork for it, so that when they sell, they have it, and they don't have to worry about it. But that's between you and the building official.
So the agent authorization you describe is for
It's for the
a
wetlands.
wetland.
Yeah.
Because it's a
Yeah.
regulated area,
It's an administrative
as well as a propane tank.
process.
Okay.
This is remediation work. It's not really set up for them to propose, at least this one wasn't set up for them to propose something new that you're approving. See what I'm saying?
You mean like the shed?
Yeah, like, for
If we
instance,
do it as an agent approval, we're not approving anything.
no, that's what I'm saying. That's
Oh,
why
okay.
ones, like commercial ones sometimes,
Right.
those are applications and remediation, and the whole fee structure and everything's a lot different.
Okay.
So
So we solved our question about the boulders going in. So the questions now we're dealing with is the stuff you were talking about with the as-built and the pins, right?
Yeah, I guess you gotta make a decision on that.
And if the plantings are sufficient, in our opinion.
Right, the plantings, and then I'm also saying that you need to determine and usually it's with their help, you would determine your timeline for completion of the work.
Well, I think they should be planting the trees this week.
It's ground stalling.
So that by June, they'll tip over.
Yeah. June. They think June.
I'll get
Okay.
them Frozen in time.
So we agreed that we're gonna change the 2 to 3 year for the invasive monitoring and plant monitoring, right?
So the conservation easement line was staked
Yes,
by the surveyor.
Yes.
And are those stakes located at these proposed
yes,
turns?
exactly.
I mean, myself, I mean, it's, you put them right next to them. The as-built would show it, but if it gets,
Well, that's, I guess, if they can work that out with the surveyor, that's fine. If they physically put the pins in, and then when the surveyor does the as-built, locates them, is that what you're saying?
Oh, because he has to sign it.
He has to
right?
certify it,
He's-
right?
He's saying that he did it.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen,
That's-
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And,
But as long as he's agreeing to it, otherwise if he's not
Yeah.
agreeing to it, he's not gonna sign it. So, I can understand where the legality of
you
that.
see,
kicks
you
in.
get it? Or-
Yeah, so
It's a matter of the
if
surveyors.
if as-built prepared by a surveyor is required, then we have to work it out with him. He's either gonna say, pull the wooden stake out, put the metal in, I'm fine with that, or he's gonna say, no, I have to do it myself. And that's between us and him, because eventually he's the one who's gonna
Stamp it,
stand.
Mhm.
right.
yeah, and
Just put
and
his
in your
name on it.
discussions, you could talk about how, obviously the surveying part of it, the research and the calculation and all that stuff, it's all been done. So it's just a matter of physically,
That's, I mean, the cost between those two options may not be.
yeah, I'm thinking it shouldn't be much different, so.
Okay, so I guess our last discussion point is planting. So we're saying 5 or 6 trees were removed or rotted and fell in the conservation easement, and we're proposing 4 flowering trees.
No, it's
No,
fine.
2 trees and 2 smaller trees.
No, 3 flowering dogwood.
No, I'm just talking about behind the pool. Then there's 1 off in the,
Oh, I
There's one
didn't
on the
realize that that
Yeah.
one was off in left field.
yeah.
Two
Okay.
canopy and 2 flowering,
Yeah.
understory, 2 canopy and 2 understory.
Is there another name for tupelo?
Black 2 blood. We had this discussion the last
I
time.
think we
We
did, and I
did.
still haven't gotten it.
We did.
It hasn't, resolved in my mind. I'm trying to
Mesa
figure out what,
Salatica.
most trees I can at least have a visual on, but I don't have a visual on a tupelo.
You have to check, it's a beautiful
It's
fall
black gum.
foliage.
It's
Oh, it's a
Tupelo's
gum.
gum. black
Okay.
gum. Yeah, it is nice.
So you guys
So-
are kind of like just agreeing on things now, and then you deliberate and actually make your,
You mean
Okay.
Later on?
yeah.
Mm,
You're not deliberating a second, I guess you're right.
Okay.
Sorry.
okay.
Okay, is there anything else that you guys want to present before we deliberate later?
And your input on the timeline?
Relaying it.
Sure, by May 15th?
Thank you.
When could you start going in, like that?
Show up the
Okay.
trees or
Yeah.
something.
May?
Oh, definitely, man, I think, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And in your notes, you say it's from start to finish, it's a month, you said? In your
Did I
notes.
say that?
48, all work will be done within a 1-month period, 48 hours before they contact the office, 48 hours after it's done, the contact, right? Okay, it's right there.
I believe,
Small shovels.
Chairman.
And how big are trees, did we say?
Yeah, it shouldn't take more than a couple of days.
4 to
6
6,
foot height.
they're containers, not calipers. So maybe an inch, yeah.
This will be done in a
Within
day,
1 month,
probably.
yeah. Okay, anything else for the applicant, or for? them? No? Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
What? That's all right, understood. Moving right along, on our next section, deliberation on completed hearings.
You know, Open it back up again.
So,
So items completed from this agenda as determined by the commission. Is it
Just turkey roosts, is that what we're
Yeah, that's
talking
all
about?
we
Well,
do.
that's,
Oh, no, that's next, that's the enforcement
Yeah.
deliberation, sorry. Okay, so there are no completed hearings, no bond releases, reductions, or reports. On to time extensions, IWC 2017-01, 285 Cutler's Farm Road, Monroe Park and Recreation, 90-day extension. Do I have
Is that the field?
Yes, Wolf Park.
Okay, you do have it.
And Wolf Park Ball Fields, overflow parking lot improvements at 285 Cutler's Farm Road. Should I read this? Is that what I should do here?
if you'd like to.
You don't have to, but.
So it's all of it, it's not just the field, but it's also the parking lot?
Everything in
And
accordance,
that is proposed to be done all at the same time?
deer in the
Yeah,
headlights.
the Parks Director is trying to get more information on fencing and a bunch of other things. And he's also trying to work out some design fees with the consultant as far as wrapping up and getting ready for construction.
Okay.
They're asking for 90 days,
It's 3 months.
which takes us to April. Does anybody have a problem with the 90-day extension to the Park and Rec Department for this?
Scott, do you know what their time frame is for construction?
There's some issues with it. The issues are money and cash flow, and they're trying to work through that. So I don't know what the schedule is.
I was thinking, like, now's the time to get the permits, so that if they wanna do it when the weather
When the
changes.
weather- Yeah.
Well, I think they have the permit.
Yeah, we have,
already.
they're asking,
They have
they're
the permit,
approved.
they're just
It's
asking
already-
for time to
Oh.
get it done.
Yeah,
To start.
Oh, to start.
yeah, this is an
Oh,
approval and they want to
gotcha,
start.
okay.
with
So
it.
they've already been approved.
I, so moved. Give them 90 days.
90-day extension
I
approval
moved it.
as a motion by Commissioner Spence. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion passed unanimously. Time extension granted. 234, IWC 2016-09, 234 and 246 Main Street, Sippin, requesting extension until August 1st, 2018. We received correspondence.
August 1st.
We met with him, and we met with his son Dave afterward.
See the brand new solar panels have gone up.
Yeah.
So now they're not
And
so
there's
concerned.
some zoning issues on the property. He did go in and he put in some plantings in the north end of this remediation area, and he hasn't done anything else. We agreed that we were gonna go out there as soon as the weather permits and visit the back portion of the property and agree on the areas that had to be regraded along where that drop-off is. And so that's what we're waiting for at this point. So he's asking for more time.
August 1st
August-
seems like an awful lot, though. I mean, this has been going on for years and years.
2016 was the application.
Okay, year and year then.
Well, again, he was in a big rush to get everything approved so he can put his
Right,
panels
his
up.
panels
And now
up.
his panels are up, so.
What's the justification for August 1st? I mean, there's no,
Yeah, what's the holdup?
In for, he's gotta get someone in there with a decent machine. It's a pretty good, I mean, the work, once he starts it, well, it's a month's
He owns a
worth of work.
machine.
Huh?
He owns a machine.
He doesn't own a machine. He has a worker that has a construction, company or something.
Well, it
that-
goes up and down my street on a regular basis.
Maybe
He
he
lives up-
does.
He lives up the street.
Well, maybe that on his farming operation you're talking about. But I guess he needs a good size excavator to get some of that rock out and to smooth that off. So he's gotta get a pretty hefty machine in there. I don't know why he's saying August 1st.
I mean, that's
what's
8
our
months
recourse
from now.
to say no? What's,
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to grant it then, you can set your own date.
What was he gonna do with the area once it was graded? Was he gonna seed it? Or-
He's gotta grade it, he's gotta seed, topsoil and seed, then he has to plant the remainder of the trees that were in his approved plan. The north end he planted, didn't quite follow the plan, put more in some areas, and, but the middle portion and the southern portion, he didn't plant yet.
To get in there with the machine, maybe needed room.
Yeah, I mean, he could have planted and then left a strip to get in there, but, and then he's gotta build like a berm when he's all done, so you can't get in there easily afterward.
So if it takes him a month, say bad weather, takes him to the end of October, then he's gonna talk about, how's he gonna seed it? It's gonna be too late at that
Mm.
point.
Yeah.
Well, he's gonna be done, he said, by August 1st.
Oh.
We expect to have all the required items for
Completion.
compliance
You know, I
completed.
could, between excavation work and restoration and waiting for, you know, I could see what would take him 3 months. And if you look at, May, June, July,
Yeah.
he's asking for August 1st. That's what, you know, I'm thinking it's not totally unreasonable.
Yeah. It's a really late, cold, wet spring.
Yeah,
You could
that's
drive
right.
him into May, even later. think it's
I would say
probably
that,
reasonable.
you know, if we did accept this, that there would need to be, I would request like updates from staff on progress that's going on out there, so that at a meeting in July or June, there could be an update, so we know, has he started? Because if he hasn't, and he needs to go into September, October, and then he can't do the stabilization over winter, and it's gonna carry into 2019, we should kind of have our finger on what's going on.
Okay? Usually you make the applicant give you an update.
Well, however we want to, yeah, we could have them
And the update could be a
a
simple.
monthly
Just a simple
report.
letter to you.
Just a monthly to you, saying what they did this month. And
To
if
the
it was
commission.
nothing, it's nothing, or to the commission, but,
commission.
yeah.
The problem is policing that.
Well, if they don't, you know, it goes by, and we should, you know, just maybe keep a spot on the agenda, just correspondence from Sippin or something to just do
Well,
a
I think,
check-in.
or the other way to do this is to say that, you know, given the previous time that was allotted and what's happened out there, you want to make it clear that this work shall be done by August 1st, or you are authorizing the issuance of a citation.
Hmm.
You know, I could strongly word it. And so it says to them, look, if you're not done on August 1st, we're not even gonna talk about it.
Mhm.
We're already saying that if it's not done by August 1st,
You'll be issued a
then
violation or
the
citation.
violation gets issued. I mean,
Sure.
the citation gets issued. You wanna do something like
Sure.
that?
Sounds about right.
Yep.
You need a motion for that, or are you good?
Go ahead.
You should motion it.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make it.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Sharma, second by Commissioner Spence. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Passes unanimously. Next, I 12-11, 39 Doors Drive, Provenzano, 5-year extension request.
Okay, so this one is back in the era where we were processing remediation, violations of remediation through issuance of an approval as if it was for development. Now, there is some development attached to this in that the proposal also includes a house to be constructed. So there was a new driveway being put in and a house constructed with a planting plan and all that. So it wasn't quite handled the way we would do it today. So there wasn't that clarification between what was required for remediation and what was required for site development. So consequently, it got approved and it had the 5-year period to do the work. My understanding, and I could be wrong with this, but I believe that the survey plan part of it, of the splitting, or the creation of the lot was done, the house, we have not received any application for construction of the house yet. However, the trees in the area where the house is gonna go, which are in the upland review area, have been cut. They were cut like in 2013 or 14, in that era. So there's stumps out there where the house and some of the activities gonna happen, but they don't have permits in place for that yet. And here we are, they're looking for an extension for 5 years.
When was their first extension, when is the first approval up?
You got that file?
Because this,
The red
was
file.
initiated in 2012, which means it's
The red
already
file,
6 years
okay.
old.
Could you hit that?
So that'd be
Oh,
11
if you're
years
gonna put
total.
something else.
Yeah.
All right, let me get the letter, hold on.
10 years now.
The letter is dated January 14th, 2013, that's a notice certificate of decision. And, let's see, so it would be 5 years from, the meeting was held on April 10th, 2013.
So
So
what's the
April 10th is
timeline,
their time. that
what's
they're-
the timeline statutorily on that?
It's 5 years.
They could get another 5, right?
They can get another 5,
So 5 years is up this April, you're saying?
yeah.
Just sort of
So-
plan.
Yeah, there's some, she's showing you the photos that Conrad took today. So that's the proposed driveways in that area, and you could look in there, there's some, it's been cleared, and there's stumps in there. Just quickly flip through them. I don't know if you guys remember it.
I do.
It was almost like a little pond in there, you can't see it with the snow.
Yeah, you can't really see much.
There was
with
like a
the
little,
snow.
there was like a little bridge, I don't see it there anymore,
I
they
don't
must have
either.
taken it out. It was required that they take the little footbridge out that was out.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah, the footbridge was in that area, I think.
So it's been impacted, it really should not have been, but I don't know what to tell you, that's how we processed it, it had the 5 years. Didn't have quite the clarification that it should have. Yeah, so to answer your question, the permit would be up on April of this year, so they're in a little early.
Well, since we,
Stumps on the right where the driveway is. The big stump is the corner. It goes back 30 feet from there. It goes 50,
All right.
55 feet to the other stuff that you can kind of see in the back.
I'm sorry, sir, just 1 second, okay? So, do we have to grant the 5-year extension, or do we need an
Well,
explanation about work that's going on
on-
here?
The statutes say that you really are compelled to approve requests for extension requests unless there's a compelling reason not to.
Okay,
Unless there's unless there's a clear violation or some other compelling, what was the wording they had? I can't think of it at the moment, but it would be something of substantial enough to warrant you to not grant the extension.
all right,
I mean, is him going in there cutting trees and doing work?
And technically, if he's doing it,
And of
and
course,
he has a permit, and as long as erosion controls are put up so that the site's stable, and by cutting the trees, if there's grubbing or anything like that going on with grading, then the erosion controls have to be put in, but it's a
There is,
permitted site.
There is,
Well, it's permitted, but there's no permit, it's approved. There's no permit to cut the trees down.
is there a site plan for a house?
No,
So we don't,
there was something originally.
sir, I'm
that
sorry,
was
we
part
can't,
of-
we can't take anything.
There was something originally as part of the application, but we don't have a building permit application to put up a house. That's been approved. But I don't really see it as an issue. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
couple of trees, it's not, if 5 more years goes by and at that point, you're gonna have
Then
to
start over again.
exercise getting them to restore, it'll turn into a restoration enforcement, where he'll have to come in and restore along that side of the wetland because the house wasn't built. So it's just a waiting game.
Okay, I move to approve that extension.
A motion by Commissioner Spence to approve the 5-year time extension request. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes. 5-year time extension request granted. Okay, IWC Agent Activities Report.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
There's nothing going on. As you know, Gabe went to a full-time job elsewhere, and we're trying to fill the position. So we're in that process.
Okay,
Yes, we are.
so moving right along to enforcement, deliberations on completed remediation submissions. Items completed from this agenda. I believe the only option we have here is IWV 2017-06, 265 Turkey Roost Road, unapproved disturbance in a regulated area and a conservation area. Does everybody remember this?
I don't know, let me refresh my
Should we
memory.
review? Can someone roll the video? All right.
Do we go through the whole motion process on this one?
Usually-
Because it's a violation?
Yeah, I like to do, let's do it. Let's,
Move to approve with,
Will you request a draft?
whatever those words are.
Conditions.
Thank you.
Request a draft.
Conditions.
So I have a move to approve the conditions by Commissioner Spence. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, so now that you second it, what we have been doing is, with some of these, is we've been doing the draft. In this case, you
Right.
guys went through in a lot of detail. It's up to you which you'd rather do.
I think it's probably swifter that we kind of
Just-
discussed it at length here, right? So do we need to
Can we
delay
just
this
give you
another
the
meeting?
conditions
No.
and let you write the letters like you used to?
Yeah, I mean, we
Is that okay
could,
with you?
They just write a letter and. send it
yeah,
out.
if you're detailed enough with the conditions, we can do that. It's not a development application that, we're really worried about someone appealing it and all that stuff. But, on the agenda, there's a bunch of drafts, and that was because you really, in those cases, you didn't talk
Understood.
about it in depth. So what I did was I offered that as a way to move
Understood.
it along.
Mhm.
you know? All right, so,
Start with your conditions, Scott?
so you got the second on that. Let me go through the stuff and just make sure we're all on the same page.
Understood.
All right, so we've got informative all goes away. Administrative, the requirement for a floodplain permit goes away. If for some bizarre reason it's warranted, I'll take care of that anyway, but as far as I can see, it goes away. So timeline is May 15th, and that, you also want me to put something in there about wording so that once they start work, that you're looking for the work to be accomplished in 1 month.
That was as offered in
As
in
all.
their note. I don't know that it matters to us really, but it's offered in their note.
All right, so next under technical, that the location and elevation of the floodplain be indicated on the, either on the revised drawing or on the as-built drawing, whichever works out better for them. Proposed regulated area markers being relocated to be placed along the stone wall in lieu of the conservation easement. The conservation easement located and staked, place iron pins at angle points by an LS as part of the as-built, or it just says what I said. As-built plan should be provided once all work has been completed. The as-built of the plantings can obviously be very basic, approximated, and hand annotated on there if that is the easiest way to do it. Detail for marker posts shall match the town standard. That's available on the website for downloading.
You skip the demarcation boulders.
Demarcation boulders be placed such that there is no opening greater than the size or the length of the stones provided, and the stones provided are detailed on the plan. Source and accuracy of the wetland depiction should be referenced on the plan. They indicated during the presentation, so they have that information, just put it in as a note on the plan. Number 9 comes out, they addressed it in the presentation. Number 10, follow-up monitoring and reporting shall be for a 3-year period, and I use my standard paragraph about invasives and maintenance and all that stuff. Sedimentation, next one, 11, sedimentation erosion control measures should be referenced on the plan, put a note on the plan that they will have it available for use if needed, but it's anticipated that the work will be by hand, minimal disturbance, and will be mulched and protected upon completion. Number 11, sedimentation erosion control measures, I just said that. 12, and 12, I'll reword to say something like, if they are planning on keeping the shed, then they would need to come in and get an administrative approval, which is referred to as an agent approval.
That's everything I had on my list.
Anybody have any other conditions? Are we okay with the planting plan?
I am.
Okay, so I guess that's all to discuss, right?
I think so.
All right, so I have a motion to approve with conditions by Commissioner Spence, a second by Commissioner Shamus. All those in favor of that approval, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Plan is approved. Excellent. We okay to move forward here? Okay, we got B1207-R, 137 Elm Street, Pernick, restore and establish erosion control within a previously disturbed regulated area.
Okay, so, at the last meeting, we ran out of time, and the commissioners all kind of indicated to me that they wanted to approve this application, but they didn't have time to fully list a shot at it. Let me do the draft, and you need to tell me what you want to add or take away from this one.
Sounds
Or
right.
or if it was just what you were thinking. So, you want me to summarize? like I normally
Yes,
do?
please.
All right,
Thank you.
so I provided you with a draft, it's got 5 pages. It's violation B1207-R, file 800. It lists a bunch of whereases, it describes what the findings were. And so those I've listed, kind of anticipating what you would be saying, so make sure you agree with that. And then it goes into, on page 2, commission required that this approval be subject to the following. 1 complete set of final plans, data reference on survey to match the FEMA study information or provide elevations conversion to NAV 88. Alteration of plan title to indicate that the remediation site plan includes survey information or provide 2 separate versions of the plan. Relocation of proposed wetland markers to a more appropriate location along the edge of the restored regulated areas. All areas of invasive plant species eradication highlighted and labeled. The addition of a planting key as indicated in Appendix B of the reference report by HG Consoil. All plantings to match both plan and report. Addition of general proposed grades, contours, spot elevations with notation indicating the final adjustment of grades will be determined by the soil scientist in the field during excavation. And the addition of a notation indicating that temporary access bridge shall be removed upon completion of remediation construction in respect of site restoration, noting that all subsequent follow-up maintenance and monitoring work shall be done by hand with a handheld equipment via direct access across the brook during low flows. It's got the usual requirements for filing the plan and filing the approval, conditions to be addressed prior to commencement of remediation work are pretty standard, with the exception that they have to procure a floodplain permit, verification that the site abutter, Mr. Baghdadi, for ultimate removal of the temporary access bridge. The bridge is on his property, so I'm suggesting you get verification from him. Did I word that right? It's a verification from the site abutter for ultimate removal of the temporary access, verifying that he agrees with removal of the access bridge, restoration and stabilization, access, floodplain permit, and matching of the restoration measures to existing conditions shall be provided, because it kind of needs his permission and cooperation to do that.
Wasn't that a condition of his approval though as well?
His approval, the condition was that he had to remove the bridge, but it was tied into this one, that it was hopeful that this was accomplished before that was done.
Okay.
Then item C, conditions be addressed prior to the final acceptance or restoration. Those are standard. Then there's standard requirements are in all of them. The timing and expiration, I put in that work shall commence no later than May 15th and shall be completed within a maximum of 6 weeks. You had asked them, they said they could do it in about 6 weeks.
Oh, I had it on my thing to start in April. Oh, it commence sometime by May 15th, that fits.
So May 15th, okay?
Yeah.
All right, the rest of it's standard language.
Okay.
We move to approve the draft?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I move to approve the draft as presented.
We have a motion by Commissioner Spence to approve the draft. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Mastrocco. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
Clark, do you need to abstain, because I'm not sure whether you were here.
Were you here for the whole thing?
I was here for the last meeting, yeah. We went through
Ross
the
was
whole
here,
thing.
All right, and Ross,
You were missing
I
from
was
this.
here.
No,
The gentleman came, the excavator came. to
Yes,
talk
yes,
about
he was here.
Oh,
I
was
wasn't
there?
here. I was here last
okay,
week.
I
Yeah,
just wanted to
that's
make
right.
sure, because it's been so long.
Yeah, this
Okay.
was, this was the one with the funny bridge where he needs the bridge and he might have to reinforce the bridge
Right.
where that,
No,
when he
they're all.
goes in, and then he's gonna take the whole thing
So
back
you were there for the
out.
final presentation of the final plans,
Okay,
which
so
should be
everybody-
sufficient.
Everybody's in.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
thank you.
motion is, carries
approve.
unanimously.
Sorry, thank you.
It's okay, thank you for your thoroughness. Moving forward, 120, IWV 2017-07R, 127 Main Street, Keeler owner, clearing a previously approved limit of disturbance area.
Okay, this one, same deal with this, all of these in this category. I put together a 4-page approval letter. Much of it was Donna's help, I might add. You put the letter together, I added the verbiage about the requirements. All right, so letters, doesn't matter what that, set up for tomorrow. Okay, so the second page, first page of the letter indicates the same, whereas the conditions of what was submitted and the findings. Second page goes into the requirements under A1, complete set of final plans with revised wetland marker post detail to match the town standard, and alteration of the planting soil notes number 2 and 6, sheet 2.61, to eliminate the requirement for 5 pounds superphosphate per cubic yard of mix and replace with 1 part compost per cubic yard of topsoil. That was discussed and requested during the hearing portion.
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah, I know we talked about it, but I wanted to confirm that that was the mixture that you had recommended.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so then it went on to section B, which are conditions to be addressed prior to commencement of remediation work. Those are all standard, with the exception of verification of compliance with respect to planning and zoning commission approval and any and all other agency permits. Then it goes to conditions to be, C, conditions to be addressed prior to the final acceptance. Those are standard. I put in for an as-built, you typically want that for verification of the installation of the plantings. Then item D, the standard requirements were just inserted. Item E, timing, it was put in that it shall be completed within 30 days by October, work shall commence no later than September 1st of, oh, that's right, they asked for a delay on the time, remember?
Yeah, we gave them a deadline of October 1st.
Yeah, so they have to commence no later than September 1st and go completed within 30 days, October 1st, 2018. And then the rest of it is standard language.
We missed one thing. They had changed the conservation easement boundaries, and you wanted confirmation of which one was the real one.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
They added space to the conservation easement on the plan to encompass their plantings that they were putting in, if I remember this correctly.
No, they didn't change the conservation.
Because I have that written down as a note
No.
from last time.
What they did was
Um,
they expanded their planting area in the upland review area. But they
I
didn't,
thought they also changed the conservation easement boundary as a result.
no. Hey, what is
That
anybody
would,
else?
where would I come up with that?
I don't know.
I don't stay up late at night fixing these things.
No, I was trying to figure it out when you provided the comment. I'm saying, they didn't, because in order to do that, they would have to provide a whole new
Yeah,
conservation.
but it did seem like the old plan, now I'm not sure I have, this is the newer plan. Seems to me that the older plan you had it in a different place.
I thought what they did was they expanded the planting area that's within
You mean it was behind the conservation easement the whole time?
yeah, okay.
Oh, not the south.
The conservation easement is the dotted area. They're not doing anything in the conservation easement. It's all in the upland review area above it. This didn't even involve anything in the conservation easement. The only thing that happened in the conservation easement was when they cut the trees down, I think the tops of the trees were kind of, they landed just into the
Okay,
conservation.
then never mind.
Okay,
Thank you. Sure.
that's all 4 pages?
Yeah, it's all, no, all
Yes,
4
it's all
pages.
4. All right.
Okay, so we're all very happy with that. Thank you for composing such a letter, and I will,
Move to approve.
we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Spence. Do I hear a second?
I see.
Second by Commissioner Massarocco. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Another one bites the dust. Fantastic. Good work. Moving right along, IWB 2016-18, 409 Cross Hill Road, Capoziello, maintaining a conservation easement.
Okay, so this one is, I also put together, we put together a draft.
Just kidding. It's all good.
I don't want to get yelled at tomorrow.
I think we all know what's really happening. I don't think it needs to be called attention to, but it's nice that you do it, Scott.
Okay, so there's 4 pages. First page, we talk about the whereas and the findings and, you know, listing what it's about. Second page, we get into the requirements of the plan, section A1. A1A would be the addition of siltation and erosion control measures, plan view, text, and details. The addition of notations indicating methodology for minimizing the establishment of invasive plant species. And C, the addition of a notation indicating that the restored area shall be mowed seasonally once per year for a period of 3 years to prevent the establishment of invasive plant species during the time that the new plantings are becoming established. I added that per Lois's comment. And then we have the same requirements for filing of the map and the approval. Section B, conditions to be addressed prior to commencement, or typical standard comments. Item C, conditions to be addressed prior to final acceptance. Again, standard comments with the notation that we are suggesting that there be an as-built for this one, and it's in there. Item D, standard requirements that are on all these letters are there. And item E, timing, expiration, and transfer of the permit. Work shall be completed by June 1st, 2018, with the exception of the follow-up monitoring, reporting that needs to be done. And I think, I forget where is that? It talks about the monitoring. Well, that's under your standard, once per year for 3 growing seasons, 3 years, so that's it. Then the rest of it in page 4 is your standard comments that are at the end of all these letters.
Sounds good to me.
Everybody excited about that? Happy with that? Okay.
Move to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Spence. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
It's nice to put some of these
Thank
things
you.
to bed.
Yeah.
Okay, 4 Easton Road and 9 Hattertown Road, ICP 2017-06-R, Pellegrino, Gordon trustees, Joel Green Esquire representative.
All right, same deal on this. We put together a draft to help you along with the deliberations. It is 5 pages long. And first page is your typical description of the application, and in this case, the findings were put on page 2. Then we get into section A, conditions to be addressed as soon as possible within 30 days from date of approval. They are the addition of a general note referencing the source of information being taken from the Spath-Bjorkman drawing to include details relative level of accuracy of information. The addition of a notation indicating that there should be no activity extending beyond the property line, that a final as-built survey will need to document compliance, see below. The addition of a certification statement indicating the accuracy and elevation contour information needs to be T2 field measured and verified or better. These are things that are getting put on the plan. Item D, the addition of sedimentation erosion control measures, plan view text and details, clarification details relative to the proposed notation, the tree planting shall consist of, et cetera, and smaller shade tolerant native trees at higher quality should be provided. Clarification on the need and planned use for proposed 6-inch and proposed topsoil, 6 inches of proposed topsoil within the wetland areas to be restored. A detail of the proposed wetland regulated area markers per town standard, depiction of the proposed guide rail or fencing at the limits of the pavement area to remain as offered. Filing of final, and then the filing of the final plans and the approval. Section B, condition to be addressed prior to commencement of remediation. The standard comments with the addition of a legal formal representation, documentation of all applicable property owners, certificates of title, and signatures for authorization of work. If you recall, he said he was still working on that. Item C, section C, conditions to be addressed prior to the final acceptance of restoration or mediation. We're putting in there that they need to provide an A2 boundary survey information verifying no encroachment into the abutting property, because this extends right up to the property line. And, it said that, it also says an as-built drawing, including an A2 boundary survey. Then I've got item D, standard requirements that are in all these letters. Item E, the timing, work shall be completed by June 15th, with the and these were dates that were discussed with the applicant or owner during the hearing. So it was completed by June 15th, with the exception of the follow-up monitoring reports. And then the standard language for the next 2 pages.
Excellent work, Scott. Thank you.
Move to approve.
A motion by Commissioner Spence. Do I hear a second?
I second.
second by Commissioner Massaraco. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? None heard. Motion carries unanimously. Excellent work. Moving right along. Administrative review and enforcement issues, IWV 2016-09 and IWV 2016-10, 1603 and 1615 Monroe Turnpike, Mondo, filling in activities in a regulated area.
Okay, so this is the one that, they came to you some time ago, as in response to a notice of violation. It's two properties, adjacent to each other. In the middle of the two properties is a right-of-way that goes to a house that's behind, the two properties. And there was a length of time when, there were legal issues and debates, and we were working through, a whole issue of access and who owns the right-of-way and who has the right to do this and that. And so this, even though they came before you and you went through the informal discussion as a result of the notice of violation, you were gonna go out and look at it, went by, while they were trying to work out this issue. In addition to that, they were also talking to the Planning and Zoning Commission, Planning and Zoning Department, and were trying to come up with a solution to the problem that involved the potential to develop and enhance the one property, and to get retroactive permits and approvals for the other property. And so it went back and forth between zoning and with zoning, and meanwhile, time went by. And you guys didn't get your remediation resolved. We realized that it kind of fell off the agenda. You know how we keep them on the agenda under pending. It kind of fell off, so we brought it back to you and we said, look, it's time, too much time has gone by. It's time to set a deadline for these people and tell them. So you did that. You went through, you had me send out a letter, and we gave them a deadline, which was, help me out, Donna.
2012.
Oh, okay,
12.
So it was December 12th. December 12th comes and goes, and no submission. So I get an email from their attorney, and I guess, did you give them?
I did not. No.
Okay, so the email from the attorney comes in on January 9th.
So that was
Yesterday.
yesterday, yeah.
No, hold on a second. No, excuse me. The email came in December 13th. I was gonna say it was before Christmas. The 9th was I sent it to you.
Oh, okay.
So he sends me an email right before Christmas, and he goes, I just wanted to let you know that Bruce is working on this, whatever that meant. To make a long story short, after months of back and forth and planning, we had a falling out with Jim Swift over the scope of the project. He is in the process of trying to, meaning, I guess,
Mr. Mondo.
Mr. Mondo, is in the process of trying to obtain someone else to perform the work. So in a show of good faith, Bruce has moved as much as he could from the affected areas and intends to move more as the season and time permit. I want to send you this email to let you know we have not and are not ignoring the issues. We continue to move towards a resolution. I'm happy to have a quick call and fill in more detail. I'm in the office going on. All right, so Joe Chapman, our zoning enforcement officer, went out there, and he came back with the story that, you know, his input was that it looked like they were doing more of the same. They were filling the lot with more stuff. And so, you know, they could say the vacant lot. And, you know, they're saying, and first of all, they have no permission, they have no permit, no approval to do anything. And we asked them to do nothing. We asked them to not do nothing, but to come in and remediate their application. Do nothing physical out there until you have an approval for remediation and approvals for development, if that's what they desire. So they're out there continuing to work, moving material around. At this point, I don't know what they're doing. I don't have a survey. It's,
Has the soil scientist even looked at that vacant lot to see if there's any wetland issues?
oh, we have a previous plan on it. We know that there's wetlands and we know that there are issues. So
Okay.
that's why we issued the
So
notice of violation in the first
Now,
place.
if we issued a cease and desist, that would start a statutory time clock, right?
Well, let me just say that, usually what we've been doing is if somebody, the reason it's before you tonight is because you gave them a deadline and they did not adhere.
And these are violations that are going on 2 years old at this point.
These are
And we
violations
still don't have
that,
a remediation.
that are egregious.
Yeah.
I mean, they're major. I mean, these are big violations, filling in the water course, filling in the upland review area, filling wetland areas.
Well, I might be missing something. Ross, isn't this the site that we went to? So where was the filling that I didn't see?
Well, in the first property, the one that has the buildings.
Yeah,
The filling is, there's a brook in the back of the property that's now piped,
That's
Okay.
right across the back.
right, that,
okay? And there's equipment and outside storage.
yeah, I saw that.
In that area that's right up
But
against,
the piping, was, we had a timeline on when that was done?
yes, and it was done within the period of time that you would have needed to issue
Okay.
a permit, and you didn't. There was
Okay.
no permit issued.
So it was recent that they?
Well, no, it was after 88.
Oh,
No, no,
oh,
no.
well,
The
okay.
second
You generally
property,
being the.
as you
Yeah.
drive in, the property to the right, the vacant lot,
Yeah.
I mean, that's been filled,
Yeah.
you know, considerably filled. Clearly, the upland review area.
There's 0 wetland flags out there. And
Yeah,
that's-
yeah, that's right, yeah. there's
Okay.
nothing.
Yeah.
But we have a plan that originally shows wetlands in that area. So we're pretty confident that there clearly are regulated areas.
Well, I guess one of the things would be, and this was one of the things I brought up during the site visit, was, okay, where's the wetlands? You know, we know there's wetlands, it looks like it's wet, but you go out into the field, that there's no indication of
Well, they
wetland
need
boundaries.
they need to submit a remediation.
Yeah, but they need to identify the wetlands in the field.
In order to do that, in order to submit remediation, they need to flag the wetlands, provide a plan, fill out the
And
application.
we've been working on this we've been working on that
They
since
need to do all
2016.
that, and they haven't done it.
Have we sent them, have we started the clock? Have we sent them the notice of violation?
They got the notice of violation, they got a determination that said, submit your remediation by December 12th.
All right, how
So
about?
now,
we s-
typically, what you guys typically do as a result of this, right? You typically say, hey, they didn't do it, issue a citation. That's
Mhm.
usually how we do it. Now, bear in mind that we've chosen to take this avenue of our enforcement process, and we use the order, issuing an order, a cease and desist and an order as our last resort. So that's why I need some input from you. Do you want me to issue a citation? If the citation is issued, then what'll happen is they have 2 properties, so they'll have 2 citations issued. Each one's $150 a day for every day that they don't.
For each violation. Now,
for-
there's more than
yeah,
one
that's
violation.
That's correct. So each property, each violation. So $150, so I don't, you know,
However
we
many
can
violations
list the
there are,
amount
yeah.
of violations as well. So it's gonna be more like,
So we have 2 options. We have the citation or we have this order.
Actually, we have 3 options. So one of the other things we've done is we've sent a last drop dead letter and say, this is your last
well,
warning.
my understanding was
Or
that's
have
what
we
you
already
already
done
did.
that?
We've already done
We've
that.
already done that,
Yeah,
okay.
that's what the.
We've had
And
this,
it's
this
time-
exact
Not
same,
till
It's
December.
time to
we've
do
had
it
this
then.
exact same discussion
I
in
mean,
the previous meeting.
Yeah,
Okay,
you,
um,
I don't wanna tell you how to
Oh, we've
decide
had
on
this
but
exact same
You
discussion
could
in
decide
the
that,
previous
okay, we'll give you another 2 months to do the
No,
same thing.
no, I
you
think
could
you're
do
right.
that.
We're being monkey
No,
right.
I think it's just they're delaying until they get something going. I mean, they want to do it all at one time instead of
Well, what concerns me, I'll tell you what concerns me.
the development on a vacant lot, basically.
We had a falling out with our engineer. Why? Over the scope of the project.
Who knows?
Wasn't he
You know,
waiting?
scope of the, you know, like, to me, that.
That's
what
not our
you're-
issue. That's
what
not our
you're-
issue.
What you're interested in is remediation, resolving the wetlands, and that, I mean, that, there shouldn't be no question about the scope of that, right?
Was it waiting for an approval on a building on that lot?
They wanna come in for an approval to put a building on the lot, yes.
So that's what they're trying to do,
Well,
they're
that's
all
the
filled
delay,
in
so it's
first,
all at
and
one
then they
time.
put their building on it,
I don't know.
He,
I'm guessing.
also, we have in the office gotten,
Just, hold on a second, I don't
Oh.
wanna go into that.
oh,
Yeah, sorry about that.
Listen, we've been through this, we've had this discussion. I'm of a mind, and as chairman, I guess I can't make a motion, but our hands are, we're either citation or we're order, and we have not been using the order, and the citation seems to be our avenue here.
Let's do it.
So December 12th was the deadline, and you received an email on December 13th?
I received the email on December 13th, correct.
And we've had a meeting since.
So just, yeah, tell him. You
And
left us no option.
I actually talked to him too, I just happened to run into him in the store, actually. And, you know, it was a reference to it in a light way that, oh, yeah, you know, they can't get their act together, and we're trying to pull it together, and we're trying to get something into you, and, you know, that's basically what the comment was. I didn't meet with him in the office or talk on the phone specifically about this, but I just, you know, and to me, the citation program is, I mean, it's not punitive in that we meet and we discuss it, in we meaning the hearing officer, Kathy Kohut, and what she'll do is she'll ask, they have the option to appeal it. Either way, we have the hearing. She will ask them, well, you know, what's the issue? When are you gonna have this? And she'll set a deadline, just like you did, for them to submit the remediation. If they don't submit the remediation, then what she'll do is the next action that's taken is she will send that to the town attorney and say, look, they're not cooperating with the requirements of the citation program. We need an assessment of the fines, and then he files the court action, and a lien gets put on the properties until they resolve it. And then that lien is going to be adding, meanwhile, the citation adds up. So if it goes a year, I mean, we get to the point where we could take the property because they'll owe us some.
I just think that the commission and the town has extended themselves in this. And there's been zero action, except for more movement of unapproved work. So whether it's movement of soil or adding more filling, moving filling, none of it is approved anyway.
So
Right.
let's do the citation then.
It's my feeling.
Okay, so moved.
All right, so I'll send out a citation and we'll issue it that way.
We need a motion and a second. So I have a motion by Commissioner Spence. Do I hear a second?
Sure.
Who wants it?
I'll take it.
Commissioner Shamus. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
On the citation, do you list how many?
Okay, Commissioner Demus
Finance
is
director.
abstaining for the
Yes.
record, because he was not
I was
here
not having even
for
heard
any of
that.
the
okay, so
portions,
it's.
but we still have enough.
All right, that means
Did
you
you
seconded
just-
it.
One,
Did you discuss this after
We did not.
you and I went?
You went out,
I
you
missed the
sent your,
next
and
meeting.
you sent your comments.
I sent my comments.
you did, yeah.
And they were entered into the record, I believe.
Yeah, and you
Yes, they are.
don't technically need a formal vote on this.
Okay.
It's all right,
I
but
have
still.
I have the authorization already. I can issue the
That's what you
citation
do.
without that.
Okay.
But I'd like to
Understood.
get your,
But at least it's on the record that the
Okay.
commission agrees.
All right, we're moving on. General discussion, Regulation Amendment Committee,
No movement,
no movement. Public Outreach Committee,
no movement.
any correspondence?
Hang on.
yes, we do.
I'm
have-
sorry, I'm sorry.
Did that, is that part of the package, the
It
thing that I
should
sent you?
be, yeah.
I didn't
Oh, I
see it.
emailed it to everyone.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't look at it yet.
yeah, where was that on the agenda? Did we skip over that?
Well, it wasn't on here because this was something that was for discussion for the commission. It's not an agenda item.
I thought it was on, I thought I read that it was.
That-
No,
What are
the,
you talking about?
the
We're
document,
talking about
this.
that, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought
I
I
didn't-
read that, it was.
I don't see it anymore.
All right, well,
No,
I didn't even open it.
yeah, no, it didn't, it wasn't an item because I thought it would go under correspondence. and-
Okay, so basically, there's a good document that was put together
I have a copy of it.
for another municipality dealing with significant impact activities. So a layperson comes in, or a developer, and they want to understand, well, what does this mean? What's the process? What are some of the things involved? And what I thought is we could have a link on our website, as we do with the regulations and so on, and have this document, and the commission can review it, we can revise it, whatever, as a public tool for them to kind of go through in layman's terms of what does the process look like, how does this all get mapped out. It's just a tool to help them with understanding the process, so they're not just looking through the regulations and, you know, not really understanding that. So,
And this is part of another town's
yes.
informational packet, so to
Mhm.
speak?
Yeah, informational packet, it's kind of like an outreach
Hmm.
thing. But that's something that it'd be good for the commission to review and
All righty,
update it on the website.
I'll look at that next time.
Thanks for that.
I had,
all right, so, yeah, and obviously, we could take a look at it too.
Mhm.
There's a bunch of things that would be tweaked, obviously, to match our,
yeah,
but, yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. We can get it on the website and it helps people
it's like
understand.
a guide to, you
Anything
know,
we can do to help
significant act.
people
So,
understand.
well, I guess we'll edit it and then talk about it at the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a question on, I had some concerns with some applications dealing with their bond calculations. And what I'm trying to understand is, especially with one of them, they wrote in REG, meaning that it appears they've only considered the regulated area as part of their bond. Is that the way that these bond forms are supposed to be? That they're only looking at the area that's regulated under inland wetlands?
Yeah, well, what happened a few years ago is they changed the bond procedure, the state did. And so now it's for site stabilization and restoration. And so what I typically do is, I usually look at the area, the total area, within the regulated area that is disturbed. And that's the area that they provide for your bond. And then when they go to P&Z, I get them to look at the remaining area, and then that's their bond.
Okay,
Otherwise, they complain that they're doing double. Yeah,
bond.
and I add other stuff in there too for some plantings, and, you know, I try to
Mhm.
add some other stuff to bring it up to a number that is realistic. But yeah, typically it is just a regulated area.
And when going through the applications, they're coming in and they're saying, you know, they're putting in X amount of feet of just silk fence, right? And that's what their bond calculation comes up with. But when they go through the process, if we end up doing double rows of silk fence or silk fence and hay bales, riprap and extra areas, how does that get put into that bond requirement so that those numbers end up going up to cover those additions?
Well, remember that the bonds are just estimates, and they're typically, what I do is, spot check it. For one thing, the bond is, the engineer is supposed to fill out the units,
Yeah.
and how do you know that those are right? So
Yeah,
what I
no,
do is,
absolutely.
I'll spot check that, and a lot of times I find out that it's not right.
Yeah,
Matter of fact,
Surprised.
the area that most of them give us isn't enough.
mm-hmm,
And I always change that if you notice. I don't change it. If it's something substantial, like if you ask for something like a big sedimentation basin or something like that, then yeah, I'd add that. But usually what you guys are asking for in your approval doesn't change
So I'm
a
just
lot.
saying that there could be an application that we're already reviewing, that there
Yeah.
could be some big.
I would like to think that I catch that, and you certainly can point out to me, hey, Scott, maybe, can you take a look at the bond and, change it, because we're adding, like, for instance, sometimes, if you require plantings for remediation, that's different than a development plan where we're doing site stabilization and restoration. I'll figure out it's more of toward like a performance arrangement.
Mhm.
So if you add in a whole bunch of plantings or something, yeah, that would change, we might need to increase that.
So, okay, lastly, on the applications, again, getting to the wetlands and watercourse thing, and changing the application to include, even if it says, wetlands
Yeah, we
area needs to
we
be
never
disturbed.
did that,
I know, and I
But wetlands to be,
apologize.
I was looking at it today, and I was thinking, how could we just do this simply, in my mind? So, for the commission's benefit, in looking at some of the applications, they're looking at wetlands and watercourses, and there may be direct impacts to both of those. But yet, on the application, when it comes to, area of wetlands, area of impacts, there's only wetlands in upland review area. And so we're not getting watercourse impacts, and so that
Well,
doesn't add to the
you
application.
are,
fee.
We're supposed to be, but you
No,
know
no,
what?
no, no, I know.
You're supposed to be,
No, no, no,
right.
right, but that's not what's happening. And 327 Barnhill Road did not
Well,
include
maybe we
that.
should put just parentheses, including.
Yes, that's
water
exactly
courses.
what I was gonna say. I was looking at it today, and I'm like, well, if we just say including watercourses,
Yeah,
then
Yeah.
it's,
tells people,
solves
hey,
the
takes,
just don't
issue.
leave it out.
You're right.
but anyway, that's the point, is it's not happening, and I don't know how many, have come in.
And you
And
know-
the application fees have been less than what they really should be.
And that's a good point in that I haven't been checking that. That's a good, maybe that's something we should
You're on the
start looking
record.
at. So well, no, it's the truth. I
Yeah.
haven't been
There's only
checking
so
it.
much you
And
can check.
so you're noticing that
Yeah.
it's not in
327
there?
Barnhill Road, you look at the environmental report and what their impacts are, and you look at the application.
That's a good point. It comes down to the application fee,
incomplete.
so you're right.
But the application's incomplete without the fee.
All right, so we'll add that parentheses in
Yeah.
there. And we'll take a closer look at the applications when they come in, and make sure that the fee is appropriate. Okay, good point.
Sounds good, thank you.
Did you get that down in yours, so we
I
can
did.
go over it tomorrow? Okay. All right,
That's it.
Anything else?
So we do need to get the regulation committee going, because there are
Who's on the
some
regulation
things.
committee now?
Hmm? Well, I know I am.
Anybody else on the regulation committee?
I think, didn't
I
you
might
say you, I thought you said.
I may have
you'd
volunteered.
be- Yeah, I think you
Yeah, you
volunteered.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that we need to update, and,
do you want Donna to go ahead and schedule something?
Do we need more than 2 people?
No.
I don't think so, two and Scott, that's usually
Like you said,
all we
Jeff,
really
you-
need,
Yeah.
unless somebody else wants to be
Is there
on
any
it,
way
I
you
mean,
can do
that's
it during the
fine.
day?
Yeah,
Excellent.
Okay, good. 'Cause
we
I was gonna
used-
volunteer, but there's no
We
way.
used
I
to
could-
do
No,
it
you
like
wouldn't have to.
first thing in the morning, some,
You know, like eight, he doesn't
Yeah.
like to come in any earlier than
so you can
8:30.
get to work at,
no, that's fine.
He won't do 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So now for our all-important motion.
Nope, wait a second, you didn't do correspondence.
Yes, we did.
No, we
There's
didn't.
nothing on here. There's
I
nothing
said
on the list on
correspondence.
here.
Well,
Long
there is
ago.
one, I just got correspondence tonight, and that is, I want to put in the record, because it needs to go
Oh.
into the file. I got a letter dated January 10th from an attorney from Secor Cassidy, is that how you say it?
Oh, Secor Cassidy
Secor
in
Cassidy,
Portland, yeah.
And they represent the
Wiley's?
the Wileys. And they're indicating that, they've submitted several pages here of what they view as the previously documented violations on these 2 properties that we just discussed with Mondo Properties. I did not want to read this during that point because I wanted you to make a decision that wasn't influenced by this, because they have legal representation, and they did not get a chance to see this or know about it, and I just didn't want that complicating your decision, so that's why I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I kind of interjected there, but I also believe that this has been submitted to the commission, and it needs to be entered in, it is correspondence, and I'd like to get it into the violation file so it becomes part of the record for that. So I don't know.
Can I
And who are they
scan that and
representing?
email it to them?
Yeah, I guess what we can do is she can scan it and she'll email it out to
I'll
you, so you
email
all
it out
have
to
it.
you.
Excellent.
Okay.
Sound
Yeah,
good?
I don't have any information on any of the Mondo.
Yeah, Clark needs some background.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't have any
I'll
of the
put something
background.
together for you.
Well, he can get a copy of the original reports that we did, that we gave to each of the commissioners,
Yeah,
so we can, that's.
So there's an attorney sitting in a letter representing who?
The Wileys, which are sitting there, and they are the abutters to, they're the ones that have the access between the two lots that goes to the house.
Okay.
And they have some real concerns about the schedule and, the fact that this has been going on and on and on. And they have some hardships that they've voiced through their attorney, and concerns that, they're looking for some action to be taken on this thing. So,
Okay, so you'll get that out to us, it's entered in his correspondence, can I also suggest you get that over to Counselor Hayden? So that he's aware that another party is now
yeah,
represented legally?
I'll make him, he's not aware of any of this. He doesn't get, you're talking about Jeremy.
yeah.
Yeah, he's a town
Jeremy
attorney
doesn't-
now, right?
Yeah, he doesn't, the town attorney doesn't get pulled into anything until there is a legal reason to. So he doesn't know anything about this.
I
It's just
understand.
one of our many, but
At what
I
point do
I will mention it to him so he knows that, this is and it's been a problem with zoning too, because we just seem to be going around in circles and we don't get anywhere.
Mhm.
Well, I think we're entering some legal territory with the citation, now we have the property owner's attorney, the abutter's attorney,
Yeah.
we're issuing a citation, which will be legal action. I
It's-
think
yeah,
the sooner that
just
we at
let him
least
know.
let the town attorney decide whether it's important that he knows about it or not yet, the better,
Okay, we'll
in
do.
this disregard. I mean, that's my opinion anyway,
Yep, no, I think it's,
I do work for the courts, so
that sounds reasonable.
I guess I'm cautious like that.
That's a good idea.
It's good.
Okay, anything else?
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion by
Lois.
Commissioner Spence, does anybody want to
Second.
second it?
It's usually Jason.
Who seconded? Oh,
Commissioner Ingress?
It's usually Jim.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion
Silly
carries.
goose.
Meeting is adjourned.
Like, just woke me up.
I just enjoy the hammer.